Joining me now is Mr. Mike Manning, attorney at law in the great state of Arizona. Mr. Manning, I want to thank you for coming down.
Well, thank you for doing this kind of show.
Absolutely. We want to try to get the word out and see if we can help the great people of this state and the country as well. There's a lot of topics that you're involved with. Why don't you just do us a favor and jump right in with the hot topics you want to start with?
Well, I've completed 6 cases against Arpaio, successfully, 5 of them successfully. We've collected about $22 million for our clients. All 6 of those cases were death cases.
Death cases. People
that were killed in his jails under very gruesome circumstances and utterly unnecessary deaths. I have 1 death case yet to be tried, and I have 4 other cases involving various violations of civil rights by Arpaio and his gang of thugs. I've often said to people that if John Grisham wrote a treatment for a novel and took that treatment and gave it to his agent in New York City, and that treatment was about what's happened here over the last 15 years, that agent would look at that treatment and turn to his client John and say, John, there's no way anybody's going to believe this.
This is unreal.
I can't sell this. This is, you're writing about Phoenix, Arizona, which is the 5th largest metropolitan area in the country, and this is the 21st century. This kind of crap could not happen here, but it has happened. We are experiencing an episode in our history down here which is absolutely, utterly disgusting and unbelievable to people that don't live here. That someone like Arpaio could continue to get elected and continue to abuse that power so grotesquely.
Is there that much of a voter block that he has that much support?
Unfortunately, there is. It's diminishing, but there is. And Arpaio is a master of descending into that dark spot in human nature and getting people who might hate, might have prejudices. He sparks those hatreds, those prejudices, and thus he develops a following, just like George Wallace did in decades past. He's a very dark human being. And now, that said, his voter support has gone from 85% down to 51% or less now. Actually, it's less than 51%. So his voter support has declined as people begin to read and understand how dangerous he is. In the early years of this buffoon's existence here, he was not taken very seriously. He was a caricature of the old West. And people laughed him off because he gave good soundbite. And the local press didn't go after him because he gave good soundbite. But progressively, as it became obvious he was more and more dangerous to our civil and constitutional liberties here.
And he has to support somewhere to keep doing this.
Well, he does. He's fooled a lot of people, and a lot of people, unfortunately, in our electorate either don't read or can't read and support him. But the fact of the matter is, he is a sheriff, and in our country and in this county, sheriffs are supposed to be process servers and jailers. That's what they do. They're not frontline law enforcement people. And Arpaio has convinced people he's a real law enforcement guy.
You would think they act like paramilitary.
Oh, yes, they do, but they pride themselves in calling themselves paramilitary. One of the most buffoonish sights I've seen is during the Fiesta Bowl parade every year. Arpaio sits in the turret of his tank.
Oh, that's special.
And drives down Central Avenue. In years past, to the cheers of the throngs. In more recent years, to far more people booing him.
Excellent.
So, I mean, you've got a guy who's supposed to be a sheriff, who's supposed to be serving process, serving felony warrants, jailing detainees.
They're jailers.
They're jailers. Now, I also know, I spent 2 years as president of our state's FBI Citizens Academy. And in that role, became acquainted with lots of real law enforcement people, both on the federal and the state level. They think he's a buffoon as well, and they think he's dangerous. And they can't say much about that, because it would be impolitic for them to do so.
But you've heard this firsthand.
I know it firsthand now, and some of those people now have the courage to come out and say that. You know, and I also have worked with the Goldwater Institute, very Republican, very conservative, and they finally have turned against Arpaio as well. And here is one of the main reasons why. Although I'd love for them to speak to this issue themselves, but if they were here, I suspect one of the things that they would say is that, look, we have in this county, Maricopa County, 40,000 unserved felony warrants. And these are for murderers, for rapists, for child molesters.
Yeah.
Felony warrants that are unserved.
40,000.
40,000 people are walking around this county with either a felony conviction or a felony charge who are not being brought to justice because it isn't sexy for Arpaio to go out and clean the streets of real criminals.
Like you mentioned before, we were talking, he'd rather go after the poor dishwasher, or the yard guy, the gardener, the pool cleaner.
It makes good TV for him, and he can stand and thump his chest, wag his finger and shake his fist, and excite that hatred, excite those dark feelings that some of us in this county have.
Right.
So we are in a surreal world here, and I hope it's going to end. I hope it's going to end with some federal and state indictments of Arpaio for abuse of power. But right now we're living through this place has a 1930s Munich feel to it, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. Speaking of, the 30s, the Eastern European, or the Hitler era, all that stuff. You explained a little bit earlier that you actually and your friends actually have encountered being tailed and whatnot. Walk out your front door and...
It's happened to me, it happens to me at least twice a year, that I'll be driving in some inconspicuous part of, or even well-populated part of the valley where Arpaio has no primary law enforcement jurisdiction, and suddenly on the tail of my car will appear an MCSO squad car. And they'll tail me about this far behind my tail. I will speed up, they'll speed up, I'll slow down, they'll slow down, and finally after 2 or 3 miles of just harassment, they'll peel off and go away. And that's what it's like living here. And many people don't have the courage to speak out against this guy because he will find a way to have you arrested. He'll likely find a way to have me arrested one day.
And